Welcome to the ESI Africa studio, broadcasting from Inlet, Africa. Today I am speaking with Clyde Mallinson, who is an independent energy analyst in South Africa. Welcome, Clyde.
Good to be here, thank you.
Right, so Clyde, I want to start off with talking about load shedding.
Right.
And
Doesn't everyone?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And previously you had stated that South Africa could easily reach stage 11 in winter. You might not remember having said that, but it was, I think, about 2 months ago.
Yes.
And you said that if Eskom does not improve its power station performance, that is what we could sit with.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that in terms of what are the immediate to long-term planning.
Okay, so what I did in January is I put out a prediction or a forecast of shortage of electricity for the whole year. So I've got January, February, March, which is a difficult thing to do when one puts forecasts. You're putting your your independent analysis on the line, as it were. What I want to just make clear is that I forecast the shortage, which is different to the stage of load shedding, strangely enough. So there's been a lot of flutter, people saying, oh, we've actually had stage 8 already. But the way it works is the energy intensive users use about 10,000 megawatts. And they don't get shed, they get curtailed up to 20%. If they go beyond 20%, they have to shut down. So they can't really go beyond 20%. So they give us 2,000 megawatts. So if we're short of 8, the rest of the country has to give 6. And that's stage 6 load shedding. So when you have stage 6 load shedding, you pretty much are short of 8. So when I forecast that we may well be short of 11 in a cold snap in June, at peak times in the evening, it means stage 9 load shedding, because the energy intensive users will give 2 and we will still be, that's if it doesn't get worse. In other words,
if it doesn't get worse.
Well, you know, the coal fleet's been running on occasion at under 40% capacity factor, not availability. This is what it's actually doing. Availability, just because it's available doesn't mean it's used. So availability is always a higher number than capacity. It's available, but I'm not using it.
Exactly.
So okay. So the capacity, the actual output of the coal fleet, has dropped below 40% on occasion. And if it drops below 40% on a cold winter's evening, where our peak is 34, the coal fleet's producing 16, Coburg's kind of 1, you can sort of, you know, Cahora Bass's, we can easily be short of 11 or 12.
But that is the scenario. But what is it that Eskom can plan for?
Well, in trying to improve that, they can't do anything this winter. There's nothing that can be done. They've left it too late. I mean, if they'd been listening to people 5 years ago, we wouldn't be in this position. So I'm afraid the best we can do at the moment is literally all those requests, please switch things off. There needs to be a concerted effort to have a thing saying on cold winter nights at 7 o'clock in the evening, please don't switch on your heater. Get a hot water bottle that you've heated up earlier in the day, where it's really that now. And that's almost kind of like post-disaster. It's kind of like huddling under blankets, not putting your heater on when it's cold. That's managing the symptoms of the state we've allowed ourselves to get into. And I'm afraid there's nothing. It's, you know, whether one's putting in solar or wind or storage or gas or anything, it takes time. And we've run out of time.
So it's very much like what the city of Cape Town did during day 0, when we had to stop using water the way that we were. It's the same with the electricity.
Example. We need to, and it's the towns and cities that cause the fluctuation. The big guys use 10 all the time. You and I, we use 8 at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we use about 16 through the day, and on the cold winter's night we want to use 24. So we go from 8 to 24. We can increase our demand threefold. And Eskom obviously are are able to, it's easier for them to deliver a steady amount. Well, they're not that easy, but so yes, we are the noise on the demand profile.
That's very well put, and I think
Yes,
that a lot of people don't understand why residential areas are being load shed, and that is exactly the reason.
That's exactly that. And if you just take it, we've got 14 million households in South Africa with electricity connections. If each one of them on a cold winter's night switched on a 1 kilowatt heater, and most heaters are 2 kilowatt, 14 million households switch on a 1 kilowatt heater, that's 14 stages of load shedding. It's 14,000 megawatts at that point in time, on top of whatever. You can just see that we can't do it. Now, the saddest thing is that most South Africans do load shedding all the time because they can't afford electricity. They're load shedding not because they want to load shed, it's because they actually can't afford electricity. So and it's those people that are actually helping us.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that brings me to the next question, which is around the just energy transition.
Yes.
And we know that there are global challenges, but what is it that South Africa can do in order to reach that just energy transition?
I say it's simple. One would think it would be simple. We need to have an aspiration, first of all. We need to set a goal. So the current goal that is often set by various ministers and others is to get the coal fleet back up to 75% availability. That's, in my view, not very aspirational. It would be great if it could happen, but it's not likely to happen. And even if it did happen, it's not very aspirational. It's just saying we're going revisionist, and we're trying to get back to. So my aspiration for South Africa, Southern Africa, is 3 times the amount of electricity by 2035 at half the cost, with 10 million households getting free basic electricity at a level that takes them out of energy poverty. And that's all incredibly doable. If you put those two next to each other and said the 75 is pie in the sky, or my vision is pie in the sky, it's not even close. The 75 is not actually doable. The other one is imminently doable, and it has the benefits of improved health, climate. It's just, we just got to do it.
Yes. So I just want to bring the conversation back to Eskom.
Yes.
And the cost-reflective tariffs.
Yes.
So Eskom has been increasing the tariffs steadily.
Yes.
Is this the right thing for them to be doing, considering that there are many households, as you say, that cannot afford the electricity?
Man, it's a very difficult topic, because I've been presenting at NERSA hearings where they're asking for tariff increases since 2010. And whenever I present, I never talk about the tariff. I talk about how can you give any tariff adjudication if you don't know that the company is behaving prudently, efficiently. And NERSA have always said it's our job to set tariffs, and it's not our job to audit Eskom. And then I say to them, but how can you say they're prudent and efficient? Because this was during all the state capture years. I was giving these presentations. And so I would give a presentation and say, until you sort out the mess that is Eskom, the talk of tariff and everything is meaningless. And then I'd get to the end of my presentation. First question, so what should the tariff be? It used to drive me crazy. So this last tariff, I predicted exactly the 19%.
Yeah.
Eskom wanted 32. NERSA said you can have CPI. It's the same every year. I called it the annual tango. Eskom push forward and NERSA push back. And I always have done this, and it's always correct. So how did I know it would be 19%? It actually was 18. They've got big formula, and they look at acid base and everything. Well, I took 32 plus inflation is 6, is 38, divided by 2 is 19. I didn't do any calculations. I just said they always settle in the middle. So it's like a wage negotiation.
Yeah.
So yes, you could argue that Eskom aren't getting high enough tariffs now, but they aren't getting high enough tariffs to carry them through the mess that was created. So I don't feel good about giving Eskom a higher tariff now to pay off a debt incurred by corruption and incompetence on the building of. That's what we're grappling with. If you took away that 500 billion debt and took away all the corruption, we would be cost reflective now. So it's a funny question in a way. They need more, but they only need more because they were so bad and we're in such trouble.
Right, so a last question for you, moving away from the budgets and the tariffs. What is the one thing that you would like to see happen in South Africa in terms of power and energy?
I would like to see 10 million South African households not only get free basic electricity, but actually own the new fleet that's built through the issuance of green bonds. So I would like to see the people of the country owning the new fleet, not the private sector, although the people are the private sector, or the public. What are people? Are they private? I would like to see 10 million households enabled to actually own the fleet, as it were. And I'm not talking about being responsible for running it. I'm talking about owning the debt of the fleet in a good way. If you buy a flat and you rent it and you get more money than you have to pay your bond, that's good debt. That's what I would like to see, is a vision of public ownership of the new fleet.
Wow, that is something that I hope to see in my lifetime.
Well, we're going to get it right because there's no alternative really.
All right, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Clyde.
Okay.
And thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next video.